UFC Fight Night 186, aka UFC Vegas 20. We have Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Cyril Gane. This is going to be a pretty good one. Two heavyweights that are maybe sort of considered up next for the division. For this card, we have 12 fights. Welcome to Boxing MMA Picks. I go by the name of Harris. I am joined with Zan, and as usual, Boxing MMA Picks is here to give you MMA fight breakdown, fight analysis, letting you know which fights to avoid, which fights are worth the value, and which fights are maybe better value than it appears. Like I said, 12 fights in this one, 6 on the prelim, 6 on the main card. Let's get right into it in that case with fight number 1. We have Dustin Jacoby versus Maxim Grishin. I'll start this one off by sort of assessing the two fighters here. First of all, when we look at Dustin Jacoby, interesting to note that 9 of his 13 wins are by knockout. And then all those knockouts happened in the first round. He's a pretty good boxer, pretty good kickboxer. You know, he's one of those fighters that'll kind of chip away at you with the leg kicks while having some pretty good, accurate hands on top of that. I like his movement. I think I like his counter punching. I think he's a pretty good counter puncher. His calf kick, of course, my favorite weapon in the UFC. His calf kick has shown to be a problem too in his fights. And the interesting thing that I noticed with his 9 knockouts is that it's not from sort of one looping strike, one big power punch that knocks you out right away. Instead, it's from accuracy, it's from accumulation, it's from speed. So he possesses, quite a bit of tools that I like. When I look at Maxim Grishin, on the other hand, of course, we know he's an experienced fighter, very patient in the stand-up. I think he's sometimes too patient. I do see some similarities in their game, outside of the fact that Dustin Jacoby has much better movement, in my opinion. And I mean, ultimately, for that reason, I'm going to go with Dustin Jacoby. I think this fight is going to stay on the feet. I don't think Grishin has the work rate to stay in this. I mean, if you look at his significant strikes, 2 landed per minute compared to 3.65 for Dustin Jacoby. So the work rate is just not high enough for Maxim Grishin. I think Jacoby is going to have the speed in this one. I think he's going to have the activity advantage in this one as well. And I think he's going to have the boxing advantage. And I see him just sort of putting the points on Maxim Grishin here, winning maybe 2, perhaps even all 3 rounds here. Hard fight, of course, quality fight, quality opponent. But I'm going to have to go with Dustin Jacoby on this one.
Yeah, that's a fair breakdown on both fighters. With Dustin Jacoby, we know that he was in UFC previously. He didn't have a good run in the UFC. He was in Bellator, didn't have a good run in Bellator. He turned to kickboxing and he actually turned a corner. He actually is a really good striker. He looked really good. He turned it around. He's not the same fighter that he was back in Bellator, back in the UFC previously. Like his striking, I believe, is really technical. He has hands. He has good kicks. I think he's gonna have a good striking. He's gonna have the striking advantage in this fight. Maxim Grishin, though, I believe he's a solid opponent here because Maxim Grishin, really, like technically, he's only lost 2 fights in the last 9 or 10 years. So this guy is he just knows how to win, right? So he obviously turned a corner because when he first started MMA, he was losing his a lot of his first matches, a lot of his early matches. He started off really slow. At one point, he was 4-3. So he definitely turned it around. In this fight, I think that Jacoby definitely has a stand-up advantage, but I think that Grishin is definitely dangerous on the feet as well. I don't think he's as good as Jacoby. But I like Grishin's overall MMA record here. I like the fact that he has the experience. He's fought 40 fights. In this fight, he does have the wrestling advantage to get this fight to the ground. And I think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to get this fight to the ground. And I believe that as the fight goes on, Dustin does have a bit of a cardio issues that I think that Grishin can definitely take advantage of as the fight goes on. So I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go with Maxim Grishin. I think he can. I think he's going to get this fight. I think he's going to beat Dustin Jacoby. and I think he can get this to the ground. So yeah, I like Dustin. I like Maxim in this spot.
All right, let's move on to fight number 2. In that case, we have Vince Cachero versus Ronnie Lawrence. Ronnie Lawrence is making his UFC debut. He's never been finished. You're going to see a lot of movement out of him, a lot of circling around the cage, very active on his feet, almost a awkward Dom Cruz type of stand-up. I'm not going to compare him to Dom Cruz, of course, but almost that same type of awkward stand-up at times. Not really a stand-up style that I'm personally confident in, even though I've seen him, show some decent striking defense with range. I've seen him sort of, hit his opponents with his opponents not really catching his timing. Again, going back to his awkward stand-up. So I've seen some positives come from it, but just not a style that I can personally be confident in. I do like his kicks, though. I like his calf kick. If you watch his fight in Dana White Contender Series versus Jose Johnson, you'll see a very effective calf kick used in that fight. With Ronnie Lawrence, though, what I do like is his wrestling. He'll find a way to get you down. He'll find a way to keep you on the ground as well. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so he has that additional depth on the ground and an additional potential advantage on the ground. And his cardio and his pace, I mean, it seems to hold up for the entire fight for somebody that moves around as much as he does. Vince Cachero, on the other hand, he should be the bigger fighter in this one. I like his boxing. I actually like his boxing a lot. I think he has good striking defense. I think he picks his shots pretty well. And again, I mean, he has a calf kick of his own, right? For his boxing, I find that he kind of stays in the pocket. He kind of looks to bring this fight down the middle in terms of his striking. It just kind of stays in the pocket, really tight boxing style. It's pretty clean. It's pretty crisp. Pretty good to watch as well. Little bit of a clash of styles here, right? I mean, you have someone who has the better stand-up in Vince Cachero. You have somebody who has potentially the better ground game in Ronnie Lawrence. That said, Vince Cachero, I mean, he showed me some wrestling, some takedown defense as well. If you watch his fight versus Jamal Emmers, we spoke about Jamal Emmers last week having really good wrestling. And I mean, he showed me some game with his guard as well, even an offensive guard at times with some elbows from the bottom. Also, I want you guys to watch Vince Cachero versus Carlos Puente Jr. in LFA. And you'll see him actually use a ground game in more of an offensive way. Got that late rear naked choke in round 2 in that fight. So, Cachero has a ground game to that effect, right? I think he has real good stand-up. Again, going back to one of his LFA fights, watch his fight versus Casey Kenny. Yes, he lost by a knee. He got knocked out by a knee, but I think he had moments where he was probably winning the stand-up, at least from a pace perspective, cage control. He looked good in the stand-up. Tough fight, ultimately, is what I'm getting from this. It's a very tough fight, as are many fights on this card. Don't believe what you see on Tapology. I think Tapology is showing over 80% for Ronnie Lawrence at the moment. So just really be careful with that one. I would stay away from this fight completely. But that said, obviously we have a channel to run here at Boxing MMA Picks. My gut is telling me go with Vince Cachero on this one. I think he's going to get it done. I wouldn't be surprised at the same time if Ronnie Lawrence wins all 3 rounds. So that kind of tells you how I feel about this one. I will say, as an underdog and at plus 135, I like the value that Cachero provides. I think he has a stand-up advantage, and I think if he can stop the wrestling from Ronnie Lawrence, he's looking at a path to victory here. So I'm going to go with the underdog, Vince Cachero.
Man, we're going opposite back to back, because I'm going Ronnie Lawrence. But this is a testament to the type of card we have. Like, this is a really competitive card, and the odds show it. But I like Ronnie Lawrence. I'll make this quick in this prediction here. He lost to Steve Garcia. That's his only loss, professional or amateur. And Steve Garcia was in the UFC. He was on Dana White Contender Series. He lost in Bellator, but Steve Garcia was the much bigger guy, and he has power, right? He can hurt you, right? So that loss, again, that was his 3rd fight in the UFC. I'm sorry, that was his 3rd professional fight, and he fought a guy that had 7 fights at the time. That was 6-1, bigger guy. I'm not taking much from that, but he definitely had his spots in that fight. Against Cachero, though, I think Ronnie Lawrence is going to get the takedowns. I don't think Cachero's takedown defense is enough to stop the takedowns. So I like Ronnie Lawrence here to hold his own. I think he's going to get better after every showing. He's still young. He's 28. His striking isn't that bad, so I can see that even improving. But even if not, I think his wrestling is too strong. His grappling is too strong. He's going to get him down, get full mount, and put a hurting on Cachero. So I like Ronnie Lawrence in this spot.
Again, tough card. So that kind of speaks to that. Two opposite picks there back to back. Let's move on to fight number 3. Let's see if we feel the same way about this. We have William Knight versus Alonzo Menifield. Now, I'll keep this one really short here. Someone's going to get knocked out in this fight. It's probably going to happen in round 1. Both fighters kind of have the same record from a wins and knockouts perspective. William Knight, 8 of his 9 wins by knockout. Alonzo Menifield, 8 of his 9 wins by knockout. And, I mean, really the simplest thing about this fight is I think William Knight just offers more. We've seen Menifield tire himself out. We've seen him sort of be one-dimensional at times. And we know William Knight has sort of that wrestling advantage, or at least using it in the octagon. I like Knight on this one. I just have to say that. I like Knight. I think his cardio is going to hold up a little bit better. I think he's going to use his wrestling maybe to gas out Menifield in round 1. But of course, this is one of those fights where maybe whoever lands first is the one that secures the knockdown victory here, or the knockout victory, I should say. That said, if I'm going to go with a pick, I'm going to go with William Knight, but this is absolutely a pick'em and somewhat of a guess to some degree.
Yeah, I definitely see why. This is definitely a pick'em fight. Menifield definitely is dangerous in that first round, but as we know, he does have cardio issues where he can't hold it up for 3 rounds. We've seen William Knight look better in a 3-round match. I'm with you on this one. I like William Knight to somehow get this fight to the ground at some point. He has really good ground and pound, and I think that's where he's going to finish the fight. But I think Menifield is very live in that first round. I believe his power, I think he has the better striking. But I just believe that William Knight's a bit more durable, and with the more better cardio, I believe he definitely has a grappling advantage. So I think he has too much, more paths here to win this fight. So I'm going to take William Knight, and yeah, he should get this done. But yeah, it is a close fight, and it is 50-50. So be careful when you bet this fight. But I'm going to go William Knight.
Yeah, be very careful, but good value either way. We're both going with William Knight. Let us know in the comments how you feel about this fight specifically. I mean, are you going with Menifield? Are you going with Knight? Comment below. You know the vibes already. Let's move on to fight number 4. We have Alexa Davis versus Sabina Mazo. I'll talk about Alexis Davis a little bit. I mean, she's a veteran, 36 years old. She is on a 3-fight losing streak, so keep that in mind. That could either be a good thing or a bad thing. Black belt in BJJ, definitely an improved striker. She's willing to stay on the feet and engage, but ultimately she's looking to take the fight to the ground. She's going to aggressively look for that clinch situation, that takedown situation. She's going to try to get a hold of you sort of by any means necessary in a lot of ways. If she does get you down, she's really good, right? Good positioning, improves position at all times, good top control, submission attempts, keeps you on the ground, can definitely win rounds in that way. Sabina Mazo, on the other hand, I mean, she's 23 years old, a much, much, much younger fighter here. She's a former LFA champ. She lost her UFC debut, and then she won her next 3 fights in the UFC. So at 9-1, 3-fight winning streak, she's definitely looking to carry her momentum. She's a lengthy kickboxer, more of a Muay Thai fighter, I should say, with a leg-heavy attack. And I mean, she uses all of her reach, right? I mean, surprisingly, it's only 2 inches in this fight, but she uses that reach a little bit more. It's probably going to feel like more than a 2-inch reach advantage. Solid boxing as well. What I would say with her, what's kind of frustrating with Sabina Mazo is that she almost doesn't have a second gear. You never really see her turn up the pace, turn up the aggression. even if she's potentially down 2 rounds, never really turns it up and kind of goes for it. She kind of just cruises in her fights, and that can be really frustrating, especially when you bet on a fighter who's not really turning it up when you feel like they need to. You do have a real opportunity to outstrike Alexis Davis. We've seen a lot of people do it. You also have a lot of an ability to stop her takedowns for somebody that wants to take the fight to the ground. I mean, she only has 33% takedown accuracy. She only has 32% takedown defense. And if you're able to get her down, you are able to control her against the cage. You are able to have moments against the ground on her as well. So really interesting statistic there with Alexis Davis, for that to be her strength, for the statistics to be as low as they are. It kind of says a lot, and it kind of says to beware if you are siding on Alexis Davis here. It's tough to say for sure whether or not Sabina Mazo wins this one. I think that she has the tools to win it. I think that this fight is sort of set up for her to win it. I think they would much rather have a 23-year-old contender rather than, 36-year-old double-digit loss type of fighter, winning this type of match. And I think the odds reflect that. That said, I think the odds are maybe a little bit too much in Sabina Mazo's favor. I think she still gets it done, but I don't like the way the odds look on this one. I think minus 200 is just a little bit too much.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I think this is gonna be a close fight because I think Mazo's gonna win this fight. That's my pick. But I can see Alexis getting one takedown in either round 1 or round 2, and that's gonna give her the round. And then that third round, we're gonna be on edge. And I believe Mazo's gonna pull it off. But in a situation like that, the odds should reflect that, right? This is gonna be a close fight. This could be a close fight. Mazo is not the best fighter. Like I see a lot of gaps. I see a lot of errors in the stuff she does. She has a lot of areas to improve. She's still improving. But I'm going to go with Mazo here. The younger girl, what I like about her, though, is she does apply the pressure. She does have a high striking rate. So she's going to be active, more active than Alexis Davis. So I like her in this spot to win a decision. But again, Davis could land one takedown, win that round. But I don't think Davis can do that for more than one round. So in that alone, that's why I'm going to go with Mazo here, because on the feet, I think Mazo's going to be too active, and I think she's going to be able to win a decision that way.
Definitely agree there, and agreed on the point with Alexis Davis, where she's really only going to be able to put in that work for a round, in my opinion, before Mazo is stuffing the takedowns and or just completely staying out of range. Let's move on to fight number 5. In that case, we see here that it was Roundy Brown versus Alex Cowboy Oliveira. That has been updated. So let's go to the new fight that we have here. We have Alex Oliveira versus Ramazan Kuramagomedov. Why don't you take this one off? How do you feel about this fight?
Okay, so this fight, I think we have two well-rounded fighters here. In Alex Oliveira, we know that he's on a little skid right now. He's not. He has to win this fight, I think, or we're going to see him. He might be in Bellator, right? So, because his last 5 or 7 fights, he only has 2 wins, right? So, in this fight, he's fighting a well-rounded fighter that wants to wrestle, that has decent stand-up. I think that Oliveira definitely has the submission advantage, but I think that when it comes to the striking, I think it's pretty close, but I'll give him a slight edge. I'll give Oliveira the slight edge. But I give Ramazan a big wrestling edge. And I think with the wrestling, he has the grappling advantage, where he's going to be in the dominant positions here. I think he's going to win this fight. I'm going to go with the newcomer, Ramazan, Kuramagomedov, whatever that get off or whatever that is. But I think he's going to win this fight. I think his grappling is going to be a bit too much here. Like his wrestling, I think he's going to, and he has good cardio. So Oliveira is all game. He's definitely down to spoil the newcomer, but I think the newcomer is going to be game. I think he has the wrestling, and I think he's going to win the fight here.
Yeah, for sure. And for Ramazan, I guess that's Kuramagomedov. Shout out to Khabib
thank you.
That one easy to pronounce. I do look for him. I will say with him, although he has the wrestling advantage, he doesn't use the wrestling as much as I want him to. So that is something to keep in mind, almost like a Saeed Nurmagomedov, where it's just not as active as you want it to be, but they absolutely possess it. And that's something that I noticed from Ramazan as well. But I do look for him to be the bigger fighter here. I mean, he has competed at 185, and at 170, he looks pretty chiseled. So I do look for him to be the bigger fighter. I look for him to be the fighter coming forward. I look for him to incorporate the leg kick. To me, Cowboy's just not active enough of a striker. Yes, he moves around a lot. Yes, he has pretty impressive explosive strikes, but it's not coming in accumulation enough to stop Ramazan from sort of coming forward. So I'm also going with the newcomer. I'm looking for him to keep his undefeated record up here. But I mean, that's a pretty bold pick from both of our ends, to go with a newcomer versus somebody as experienced as Alex Oliveira. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Let's talk about then fight number 6. Pretty good one here to end off the prelims. We have Alexander Hernandez versus Thiago Moisés. Take this one off as well, please.
All right. So with Hernandez, we know that, or I know that he has, in this fight, I think he has the wrestling advantage. He's going to be the better athlete in this fight. In his last fight against Grutzbacher, he showed improvement in his striking, but Chris is not the best fighter, but he showed a lot of improvements. Like he had some good hands in that fight. He knocked them out, finished them with a hook. Against Thiago, though, Thiago has the grappling advantage. He definitely is the better jiu-jitsu fighter. But when it comes to the wrestling, Hernandez has that advantage. So Hernandez is going to be able to dictate where the fight goes. And with his improved striking, I think he's going to win this fight. I think he's going to win this fight because I think that Moisés definitely can hit him, can definitely land that shot. Hernandez is very hittable. But I don't think he's going to finish Hernandez. I think that this could go 3 rounds. I think that Hernandez, with the wrestling advantage and the new improved striking that's only getting better here, I think that he's going to win this fight. So I got Hernandez here in this spot, the better athlete, stronger guy. And I think that with his improved striking and his wrestling advantage, he should be able to dictate the pace, dictate where the fight goes, and he should win this fight. So I got him in this spot.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of the same messages here. I mean, 2 fighters with somewhat similar strengths in that, improved stand-up, good ground game. But to your point, it's a different type of ground game. It's Thiago Moisés with the grappling. It's Alexander Hernandez with the wrestling. And, I actually do like Alexander Hernandez's striking as well. His kickboxing, his boxing especially. It's pretty crisp. It's pretty sharp, straight punches. And I mean, both of these guys have definitely faced some competition. But if you look at Alexander Hernandez, as soon as he came into the UFC, just sort of look at his resume and you see he's definitely gone up against some competition. Like you said, better athlete. I think he can potentially dictate where this fight goes. I like him, especially at minus 195. I wish there was a little bit down, maybe minus 170. I would love it a lot more. But even at 195, I'm still seeing good value in Alexander Hernandez. Speaking of odds, let's take this to Vegas. Let's take a look for the undercard. Why don't we start with an underdog pick? Yeah, let's go with an underdog pick.
I like Maxim Grishin.
Maxim Grishin, where is that? I don't think the odds on that. Oh, no, the odds on that don't seem to be out yet. That's okay.
He's an underdog, though.
Yeah, he is underdog. Underdog for me, I'm going to go with Vince Cachero on that one at plus 137. I think, he has a potential, or I think he has a very clear path to victory in this one. And we don't quite know what we're going to see in the newcomer and Ronnie Lawrence. Maxim Grishin is there. That's my fault. So plus 150 for Maxim Grishin. Again, like you said, the experience, the sort of overall package, and potentially using that ground game as an advantage against Dustin Jacoby. 2 underdogs there with some legitimate paths to victory. Why don't we give them a parlay in that case?
All right, so I like Sabina Mazo and Ronnie Lawrence.
Let's go with that. So Sabrina Mazo and Ronnie Lawrence. So your parlay 2 fights on the undercard. That would pay plus 138. $100, of course, in that case, will return $238. If you are putting a little bit more on that, 500. Let's actually cut that down to 250. 250 will return $596. So a pretty healthy 2-fight parlay there. If I were to go with 2 picks myself, I do like Alexander Hernandez, and I'm gonna go with Sabina Mazo as well. So in that case, plus 126, $100 will get you 226 on that one. Larger wager, $250 will return 565 on that. Let's leave it there for the prelims. As usual, do all that good stuff to help us out. Like, rate, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, share with anyone that you know that needs some UFC breakdown, UFC analysis. And let us know in the comments how you feel. Who's your underdog pick of the prelims? What's your parlay of the prelims? If you have any specific questions about any of the fights and want sort of additional insight, more than happy to provide answers in the comments as well. So do all of that good stuff for us. In the meantime, I go by the name of Harris. I am joined with Zan, and this was the prelim predictions for UFC Fight Night 186, aka UFC Vegas 20, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Gane. Let's make this money, man.
Let's get it.